It's me, the Leeboy TV. I've got my co-host here. You co-host, co-host. Look, I'm gonna just refer to you as co-host. Can I introduce you, or are you gonna step up and introduce yourself? What's
It's
up?
me, PRI, me, the host of the show.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
One of
I'm
the
the
hosts.
co-host. I'm the co-host.
One of the hosts.
Get us in line. Get us in order, right? So yeah, it's Leeboy TV here with the PRIME. This is the Prime Nostalgia Podcast, and we got a super special guest today. Someone that I've been trying to build with and connect with for a little while now, for so many reasons, and you'll find out as we get through this interview. My guy Kenn, Michael, what's up, man? Say what's up to the
What's
team real
going
quick, man.
on? Oh my goodness, so good to be with you guys today. Yeah, man, it's been a minute.
Yeah, man.
I saw, yeah, the picture that you posted on IG of us in the dressing room like all them years ago, and that brought back memories, man.
And I'll definitely repost that ahead of this interview dropping.
Yeah.
Such an iconic moment in the late 90s. I think it might
Yeah.
be 99, 2000, somewhere around there.
Yeah. I think it was actually a little earlier. I think it was like 98 based on my hairstyle at the time. Okay. That's kind of how I know.
Oh, we're going to talk about
all that, man. It was the 90s, okay? It was the 90s.
It definitely
it was a different time.
90s. And before we even move forward, I want to just talk about your name because you've been credited as I would say Kenny Blank, Ken Michael. Also, I've seen Ken Black in there, and I think that was just
that's a mistake. Yeah. So Kenny Blank was what I went by as a sort of child actor, and I changed my name legally around 2000, and I made my middle name my last name. And then dropped off the Y at the end of the name. And it was one of those things, and I know you can relate to this too, is it's like when you're going through that transition from being a child actor to an adult and you're getting into other things. And, I was just kind of like, I need to switch stuff up. And I feel like I'm kind of a different person, and I want kind of people to see me as an adult versus like, oh, you're that little kid from that show or whatever. So Michael's my born middle name, and so I made that my last name now. So
you know what? That actually inspires me because I wanted to make a similar change. My middle name is Curtis. Frierson, people always call me Leon Ferguson and Freerson and all that stuff. So I'm like, if I just go to Leon Curtis, that'll be kind of dope. You never know. You might.
Okay, but here's the thing with that though.
Okay,
because
warn me.
If you did that, like me, you would have two first names. People get confused with that. So people call me Michael Kenn, they call me Michael, or they want to put, they wouldn't want to put an S on the end of Curtis, but they always love to put an S on the end of Michael.
Michaels.
Like Kenn Michaels.
I can see that. So it's definitely Kenn Michael. We're good with that.
Kenn Michael. Yeah, that's me. That's me for like the last 20 years.
Correct.
20 years. Man, time is crazy.
And you've been in this game for a while. In fact, I'm looking at my notes because I got so much stuff that I want to run down. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Parenthood because that is very near and dear to my nostalgia heart. Prime, do you have a favorite project? Would it be the Parenthood from Kenn Michael?
One consistent one, yes, but he had a lot of other cameos and such other projects. So Parenthood, yes, for the consistency, yes.
And can we just start off with some of the guest appearances that he's had? Because you've had some iconic guest appearances, especially from the 90s Black sitcoms and television. Do you have one, before I run down my favorites of the list, do you have one that's most memorable that stands out to you? In fact, I'll just go ahead and say it. You were on Moesha. You were on Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Yeah.
How you gonna tell him to name it and then start naming your list?
And just, you know what? Sometimes they be forgetting. I'm just throwing the phone in case he forgot. He was on Living Single. Like I know you was probably Kyle's son or something on there.
No, I was Kyle's brother. Kyle's brother on that show. Yeah.
I think I remember that episode.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite or most memorable moment from being on a sitcom in the 90s?
So Hanging with Mr. Cooper was memorable because I got my driver's license the day that we shot that episode. And I was so excited. It was like I took driving classes that previous summer. I wasn't messing around. I was like, I'm turning 16. I'm gonna have my driver's license on my birthday. And it just so happened that we were also shooting Cooper on that day. And so I was at the DMV before work. And so I was able to like drive into the studio. Like, I got my license. I'm mobile now. Like, yeah, so that was memorable.
ID at the gate, like,
exactly. Like, you know me. Yeah, it's me. I'm legal.
Just real quick, remind the people of your episode so they want to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what that one was called, because I don't know if I did one or two. I feel like I might have done 2 episodes of Cooper. I know I did at least one, but the thing that was interesting at that time was Cooper. That was pre-Parenthood, and that was after this other show that I did called Tall Hopes, which was for CBS.
Cuba, I think, right?
Was that
with Cuba?
No, Terrence Howard.
Why do I feel like
Terrence Howard played my older brother?
And
it was George Wallace was my dad, and Anna Maria Horsford was my mom on the show. And that was my first sitcom. We did 6 episodes of that. They aired 4 on the East Coast and 3 on the West Coast before they canceled it.
Like,
but it was a fun show.
A little test, a baby test.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was like the early 90s, and it was like even more of a different time than like later on when the Parenthood came out. And so I knew my way on the stage, and Cooper was shooting on the same at the same lot. And so this wasn't very long after Tall Hopes. And so, that whole time period was just like super, super memorable. Living Single was a lot of fun because it was the most efficient TV show experience I had ever done. Like, so for the audience, normally when you're shooting like that kind of like multi-camera sitcom with an audience and all that kind of stuff, you start at a 5-day week, right? You come in on Monday, you do your table read, you rehearse Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you do some pre-taping, and then Friday you tape in front of the audience. If the show gets better over the years, like over the seasons, they start cutting down the days, which is amazing. And it's like, it's wonderful. So they go from 5 days to 4-day week. So you're out on Thursday. But Living Single was on a 3-day week, which to me, I was like, yo, this is the best gig, because you just got 3 days a week. And the crazy thing was that that cast was so like dialed into their stuff that the director, whoever was directing the show, basically was just kind of like taking notes for their switcher, their technical director, because the actors were just kind of blocking themselves. They were just kind of like, all right, so the scene is all right. So I'm coming in here. I'm gonna go up the stairs. I'm gonna go in the kitchen. And it was so fast and it was so easy, and they were all amazing. So that's like, I would say Living Single was probably one of my most favorite guesting kind of experiences on TV.
And like, yeah, that cast, although you look at Queen Latifah leading it, the rest of the cast was so experienced. Whether obviously, Kim Fields,
Kim Fields, Kim Coles, T.C. Carson, the guy who played Obi, John
Henderson.
Yeah. And they were just, it was a well-oiled machine, and they were so amazing at their roles. It just, and I always get geeked out being around amazing performers and amazing creatives. And a lot of times, especially at that caliber, I always just kind of go, oh, wow, like I'm pinching myself. It's like, wow, I'm really here. Like I'm really here, like on set with, and that never ends. That never ends, no matter like any of the stuff that I've done. Like I always appreciate those who have been in the game longer than I have, and who have done amazing things.
And not to blow the load early, but I think that's just a great way to go right. Not to premature. I wasn't gonna say the next part.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's just an excellent transition into Parenthood, because there were so many experienced actors, obviously starting off with the god Robert Townsend, like
the GOAT,
the GOAT, one of the best to ever do it, going back to his early film career and his writing
Oh,
and
yeah.
producing career all the way up into, I just seen he was directing an episode or something just
Oh, he's doing the
yesterday.
Wonder
Wonder
Years.
Years. Yep.
Yeah, he's always still moving. So, and then obviously you get that same type of feeling from rest in peace Suzanne Douglas. She just looked
Yeah.
like such a consummate professional, like one of the most inspiring actresses that you would ever want to be around. Maybe
Yeah.
her career doesn't reflect how great she was, although she has an awesome career.
Absolutely. But she didn't really get her just flowers for how amazing she was, because super warm spirit. She really was the mom on the set. She really was like, she had that protective energy, and she was really looking out for all of us. Yeah, she was a really great lady. Yeah, and we miss her. And one of the positives from that was that it me and my TV siblings, we all got to kind of like start talking to each other again, because it had been a minute, and we all have our own lives and we're all doing our own things. And it's hard sometimes when you realize, okay, 20 years goes by and you're just like, oh, wow, I haven't talked to Reagan in like 10 years. I haven't talked to Curtis and Ashley and Faison and Bobby and, all these people who are family still.
Absolutely. And we had Ashley Amari on a
Oh.
previous episode, and that's kind of when I reconnected with you. Although I think we had talked. I wanted to get you on even before her, but it's just hard to get everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
yeah.
only because I looked up to you so much and
Wow.
your role on the Parenthood, and I want to talk a little bit about that, because obviously you played this guy that was heavy into music, also into technology, and it was a lot different from some of the other roles that we seen in television around that time.
Of course.
How was it to represent, African Americans, young Black boys, in a way that was so respectable? And what type of response did you get from your fans, people like me that came up to you?
Well, that's kind of been my trajectory. I think, it's a lot of who I am, and it's a lot of what kind of came across when I was a kid, especially going on auditions. So, so I would book certain type of roles, right? Especially from the commercial game and all that stuff. The first movie I did was The Super with Joe Pesci. And so, I was playing this kid who was living in this, slum building that he was running and all that stuff. And I remember, it was like coming in, like, it was always like you would feel that push on the character on the page, where they would really want to take it into this like negative stereotype space. Most of the roles that I was auditioning for was like, all right, so you little young hoodlum, you little drug dealer, you in a gang, you know what I mean? You're juvenile.
Look, just not to cut you off, but that's the reason why I like exited the game, because I'm tired of having to curse people out like left and right. Like,
absolutely, and that's what we had to go through, right? And we were not those kids in real life, right? And so actors, we're actors, so we could play that, but at some point, I was like, oh, I want to play a kid in a sci-fi movie with powers and move my hands and look at the CGI later. I'm like, wow, I wanted to be able to play that, but those roles are just not available. And so the few, one of one of my early commercials was this Bubble Yum commercial, where I was like, the character was like, oh, I'm a mathematical maniac, and when I'm, and I've got the blackboard with the mathematical equations and all that stuff. That commercial was written for a white kid,
right?
And my agent at the time was just like, she was like, I don't care. I'm sending him out for it. Like, cause he can book it. We don't care. We don't care if it's for a white kid. Like, we're going to send him. And I remember showing up and you looking at the little storyboards, the cartoon, it was clearly a white kid. And I'm the only Black kid in there auditioning. And I booked it, which was a surprise at the time, because again, we didn't see those kind of things with us. And I always was happy about being able to portray that, because that was closer to who I was. And I always felt like, well, there's also got to be a lot of other, Black kids like me who are into some other stuff. You know what I mean? And to see themselves represented is important, because I know I would always get excited if I saw somebody on TV that was doing a thing. Now, character-wise, going back to Parenthood, Michael J. Fox was like a huge influence on me from a comedy standpoint. So when I got the Parenthood, his Michael's character in the first season was a little like Alex Keaton in Family Ties. Okay. And the way he was written, he was a little conservative. He was real snarky. He was a smart ass, and he was way too smart for his, right? So I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I get to play this character and really just really get in there with it. And so that was great to be able to play range, right? And that was not something that we were able to do. I'll never forget, after Tall Hopes, I got some LA Times write up on me, and a bunch of production companies were trying to give me my own show. And that's when I sort of got a real good lesson on the politics, the racial politics of Hollywood, because when these shows started getting written, it was like the ones that were moving forward were like the bullshit plots and the bullshit character stuff, and more of like the stereotype stuff. And the ones that I was into that was like on some like, oh, this is just a really great story, and it had nothing to do with just, oh, he's just a little black kid doing black kid stuff. Like, okay. And it was deep. I remember having this meeting with Aaron Spelling's company. They did Beverly Hills 90210 back in the day in Melrose Place. And we get in the room, and my mom was my manager at the time. We sit down. The guy who's head of development for Aaron Spelling's company, he sits in the boardroom, puts his feet up on the table, right? Just to start the meeting. I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, this is about to be some stupidness. And he goes, yeah, so I don't know if you've seen some of our shows, Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place, and, we got some hit shows, basically like, you probably want to be with us. And I was like, yeah, I've seen those shows, but I don't see anybody that looks like me on those shows. So I don't really watch them. He goes, well, okay, I get that. But, we did have some black families on the show, but, I was like, yeah, I did see that. But then they went away. Where'd they go? We didn't know how to write for them. So you don't know how to write for their people. What are you talking about? You don't know how to write for them. Oh, so now you want, now you think that's going to make me feel comfortable about coming to this company and creating with this company? Yeah. So it was nuts, right? And it was, when I was doing Boomerang, I was director's apprentice, and Eddie Murphy was, we'll get into that whole thing, but Eddie Murphy was incredible on that set, right? He knew I was there to shadow Reggie Hudlin, who was directing, and Warrington Hudlin, who was producing. And of course, Eddie was an idol of mine, like, right? Yeah. And you never know how your heroes are going to act when you meet them in real life, right? Because you can have great experiences, you can have not so great experiences. But Eddie was like amazing. He was just very warm. He was, professional, obviously, but he was just like, yo, hurry up and grow up so we can work together. Kind of like, that was like his energy. And one day I was kind of like, I don't know, I must have been moping around set for some reason. As a kid, I was like 14, something like that. And essentially I was frustrated because I had just had a bunch of auditions where it was like the hoodlum, the street kid, the drug dealer, like it was all the same stuff auditioning wise. And he saw me, and I guess he was like, you all right? What's going on? I'm fine. Don't worry about me. You got all your work to do.
You got plenty.
A couple of hours later, exactly. Like, you're Eddie Murphy. Like, don't, please, I'm not, right? PA hits me up a couple of hours later. He's like, Eddie wants to see you on his bus. What? So I go on his bus, and he's just like, yeah, man, don't worry about the auditioning thing, man. Like, it's a drag, I know, but just hang in there. Like, I know I dealt with it, but you just hang in there and you keep moving on and pushing on, and it's gonna get better and all this stuff. And he gave me a pep talk. And then proceeded to play me tracks from his new album that was about to come out with like Emmanuel Lewis and Janet Jackson and all these people. I'm just like, I'm listening to Eddie Murphy records.
That probably would have took me way left. Like, really, Eddie? You gonna give me advice and then play this? Like, no, I'm playing.
It did, but that's because that's the thing, is like, they were good records, but it's also Eddie Murphy. And no matter it, like Jamie Foxx to a lesser extent, because Jamie Foxx can kind of play Like Eddie will always play the R&B singer. Jamie can kind of like, he can be the R&B singer somehow. I don't know how he pulled that off. Comedy shit is still like on 100 million, right? But yeah, it was a trip. And now you see there's so many roles for us that are just so different. Like I see so many roles that I would have loved to play as a kid. And I'm happy that they exist now.
And you were into the music, and they also were able to incorporate that quite a bit on Living Single.
Parenthood.
On Parenthood, excuse me.
Yeah,
you were on all those. So on Parenthood, what was it like, being able to display those musical talents that you had as well? Like, obviously you had mentorship from Eddie Murphy, you seen what he was doing, but to get that opportunity, was that something that you think Robert Townsend specifically extended because you were part of that cast? And how many different changes do you think he made just based on you and your personality and your persona?
That's a great question.
Because you said the character was a little bit different when you first read it, and then obviously we've seen progression throughout the years, and you taking more of you became a man on screen.
Oh.
No, really.
Yeah. That first season was a lot different than the rest of the seasons, and I think we had a different set of showrunners that first season, different set of writers, and I think we kind of honed it to make it a little bit more friendly and loving, because a lot of the stuff in that first season, there were a lot of mean things, a lot of mean jokes, and that was something that Robert didn't want. He expressly was like, we want to show how families can interact and be loving, right? Not just go for the joke and people insulting each other. And so by the second season, like, that was dialed in a bit, and I think Michael's character got a little nicer. And like you said, I think they were writing more towards kind of who we all were as young people back then. But yeah, I mean, obviously Robert had to make that decision to be like, oh yeah, Kenn does music. And so that second season, they started writing in some of that stuff. They started like, oh, Michael's got a band. And so I was responsible for providing the music for when my character was doing bands. And then that turned into doing, I think it was 3 episodes, like scoring 3 episodes that second season. And then the third season, I ended up scoring half the season. And then by the 4th season, I was scoring the entire season.
See, I didn't even know. I never even knew that. I knew that you were involved in the back end, and you have credits that show on your IMDb about your work as far as music in the entertainment industry. But that's just an awesome opportunity that obviously you definitely. Excuse me. You lost for words. I got to take my vitamins.
That's all good. Yeah.
You definitely benefited from having someone like Robert Townsend in your corner, and
absolutely.
So that's just amazing to have. And then, you talked about Boomerang, where you still had the haircut, I believe, in Boomerang. But can we talk about this hair that you dropped on the Parenthood?
On Parenthood. Oh yeah, the braids.
Bro, I was trying to grow. Mine really don't grow too much. You still got a nice length of hair. Mine don't grow too much, man, or it might take a hell of a long time. But so was it all yours? That's the first question. Was all
no, it was not.
Yours? Okay.
So it's not like the so yeah, no. So check it out. Check it out. Right. So the hairstyle went through like a couple of different versions. I don't really remember where the idea came from, but it was actually right before the Parenthood that I just decided like, oh, I want to do something different, and I want to just have like these, it was the 90s, no judgment, but like, I just was like, oh, I just want to get my hair like twisted or braided or something. And there was this woman in New York who did the hairstyle. And then I think I booked the Parenthood. They were like, oh, no, like cut the hair. I was like, okay, whatever, right? So I cut the hair off, and that was the first season. And then somehow I allowed my hair to grow just enough, and I don't really know how this happened, but where by the end of the season for the rap party, I had the hair done again, and it was like braided, but like, like there was weave in there, and it was like not all my hair, but it was like a style. And I showed up to the rap party, and they were like, oh, we like this. So we come back next season with it. And I was like, great. And then it, and then it like evolved over like the second and third seasons, and it changed. And
oh yeah, because no, and one of my favorite styles is when it's a little bit longer in
with
the
the
front,
long fronts.
The Halle
Oh,
Berry.
Right. Yep. That was second season. That was totally second season. And then third season, it got a little bit more like the two long ones got shorter, and it was.
I wanted to get it so bad, but they were like, look at this guy trying to be Michael from Parenthood. Look
now, and the funny thing was, it was like there was this Mystical was also kind of getting big around the same time, and Mystical had this commercial for his album at the time, and he had like a similar hairstyle, and so everybody was like, who did it first? Was it Michael from the Parenthood? Was it Mystical?
Oh no, it was
Michael. I still don't know.
Oh, okay, it was Michael. We're just gonna give you the credit.
You're gonna give it to me? All right. I appreciate that. I'll take that.
Yeah,
wait. This is alternate facts,
And earlier I said you benefited from Robert Townsend and him giving you the opportunity, but it sounds like there's just something in your personality where people trust you and want you to see you thrive and work and get out there. What is it, do you think, that's about your personality that people give you these amazing opportunities, or let me stop saying the word give, that you've earned these opportunities through in the industry to work behind the scenes? Because obviously people of our color, it's, you've worked on some great Black projects, but still for them to, have that confidence in you, what do you think they saw in you?
I think it's a combination of like personality and vibe, right? I think people, I enjoy having fun. I enjoy good connection with people and connecting on that high vibration. And I'm also passionate about the behind the scenes stuff. I'm passionate about that process. I'm passionate about the technology that assists that process. And I think once people, for example, so the Hudlin brothers, huge mentors to me, because I've known them since I was a little kid. I was the youngest member of the Black Filmmakers Foundation in New York City, which was their organization. My mom had worked with the Hudlin brothers. And so she knew that they were doing this Black Filmmakers Foundation. She knew that I was a budding filmmaker and I was really studying the craft and trying to figure out what my filmmaking voice was going to be. And so she kind of ushered me into this environment. And I would go to these screenings at like 8 years old, 9 years old. And the filmmakers would come up on Q&As afterwards. And I'd ask questions. I'd be, oh, why did you use 16 millimeter versus 35? And this look that you use, and I was asking like real actual, and people were like, what? Like, who's this? And so the Hudlin brothers, literally. And so that's the Hudlin brothers, like, okay, like, I see you're very interested. And they really took me under their wing. And I'm always grateful for that, because that they, gave me that real behind the scenes. I mean, to watch Boomerang being made from that vantage point of directorial choices, producerial choices, seeing how they had to deal with egos, all these stars, right? All these huge names, and especially how they ladies, had, right? You know what I mean? How they dealt with that, and like, it was fascinating, and it was a peek behind the curtain that I'm very grateful to have had. And so I don't know, like I just, when I meet people of that ilk, and I'm really just passionate, I think the passion is what people see. Right. And I think the passion is like, okay, even if you, in the case of, well, we have to kind of still see if he really knows what he's doing, but gosh, we love the spirit he's got. Like that's, you hear that a lot, right? Like, well, he's never done it before, but he'll figure it out.
I'll give him, let's give him a chance.
Before we go to break, what song would you like the fans to listen to while we are on break?
Oh, okay. You got to make it either from MF Doom or some early 2000s Neptunes.
Ooh, okay. First we got Neptunes.
Love
okay.
NERD.
Okay.
Right? NERD for my kids all the time. Can we do one of those?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Well, we'll be right back with everybody, me included, because I'm here. I know I ain't been saying much, but I'm saving mine for the second half. Just know.
All right.
For sure.
So we'll be right back, and stay tuned. we are back
Hey.
here with Kenn, Michael, Leeboy TV, and PRIME. And yeah, we're just here talking, shooting the breeze at the moment, doing a break, but now we're back, so we're gonna get back into it. So where did we leave off?
Right, yeah, right before the break, I was just saying how multifaceted he was and how he's doing TV and film, and also voiceover and voice acting has been something that you've been patting onto your resume up until this day. I see that you have some current projects as well. So you are very comfortable, obviously, in front of the screen, seemingly if more comfortable, if not just as comfortable behind the scenes. What do you like more, and can you tell us about how you got into voiceovers?
I like all the aspects, although being behind the camera is fun if it's in the right role. You know what I mean? But I love all the aspects. I mean, and I think that's kind of what's fun, because I've cultivated like a lot of different skill sets over the years. And so being able to kind of move between them, when one starts kind of getting stale, jump over to another one. It's like, if there's not, a lot of acting work going on, okay, let me get some directing stuff going on. Maybe some producing stuff. Let's get some editing stuff going. Let's get some composing work. Right. And so it's always kind of jumping around to different creative things. And I love that. I love the diversity. I love the variety of being in the creative thing of making, film, TV, whatever. VO.
Sorry, before you is that necessary for you as an artist of your caliber to be able to have those different outlets? Does it keep your creative juices flowing, or is it something that allows you to stay in the business, or do you think you could operate with just one avenue?
We all know in the entertainment industry, there's like the booms and the busts, right? And especially in my transition kind of away from acting as my main sort of income earner. And that was like in my mid 20s, right? And I just had a couple of really sort of frustrating back-to-back experiences in the auditioning process that I was just like, And, I've always been a filmmaker behind the scenes, even before sort of the acting stuff got big. So I was always kind of doing all of these things. The acting was the first, that was a way for me to like make money to be able to buy my studio equipment, right? That's my addiction. It's definitely gotten a lot better as I've aged, but as a kid, like I was about building my studio and buying gear, music gear and recorders and keyboards and drum machines and sequencers and all that stuff. And then buying a video camera and video machines to edit and learn how to score and locking to tape and SMPTE and all this stuff was stuff that really just got me excited and really just kept me in the process. And a lot of times I would do all this stuff by myself. So it's always nice when working with a crew and collaborating with a bunch of other great creatives. But for me personally, I think being able to jump from discipline to discipline helps the booms and the busts, right? It allows things to be a little bit more stable. Because unless, we were talking a little bit on the break, I saw the episode that you guys did with Keenan, which was really great. And he mentioned, the thing that I enjoyed about his interview was that, this is a guy who's been on SNL for how many years? Like
22, I think.
Yeah, like he's the longest standing cast member in SNL history.
Sorry, 19.
Right. 19. Okay. And so he's been in it so long, but you can still hear like, yeah, nothing is guaranteed. And yeah, I've had this gig for over 20 years, but I'm not going to act like it's going to be here forever. And that work is going to be around forever. So I'm going to make sure that I take advantage of what I have and what's here now and make the best of it and think down the road and try and make good decisions. And that's great because it just shows how grounded he is, right? And how he's just very like pragmatic. And it's like, this is still a business. This is a job. I'm not going to get caught up in, ooh, I'm a star and I'm super successful. And I've been, because in the business, that's the whole thing. Like you're hot until you're not. My parents told me very early. We all have that experience of my parents told me they were when I was really young in the business, first kind of starting out, and I'm sure the reason why they told me this was because I'm sure they started kind of seeing my head starting to get a little big. I was booking commercials, I was like all this stuff, and they told me, they said, look, when you do these jobs, these people who are on the crew and on the set, and they're kind of like ushering you from the trailer to the set, and then all this stuff, they're treating you very, very nicely. They're not your friends. This is a job, right? And they're treating you nicely because you're making them money, right? You're helping them make money. And the minute that stops, everything, like, you'll see that they'll just kind of disappear. So just know that, just know that it's not like, friends and let's everybody like each other. Like, no, this is a job. It's a business. It's a job that I so happen to love doing. So I enjoy myself, but you got to be realistic about it. One of the other things that I did, which was a lot of fun, was I was doing a lot of video game stuff.
Right.
And I think my biggest kind of video game thing was black male player on Saints Row 2, 3, and 4. And those things, like, video games are even crazier than the voiceovers for like the cartoons and stuff, because of all the crazy shit they be writing in these video games. And so you just get to have even more fun because it's way more outlandish, because it's like inside jokes within inside jokes. And especially with Saints Row, like, they were doing like meta within meta within meta, and they were just going nuts. And I just the other day had to tweet out, because my most vociferous fans, did I just really use vociferous? I don't even know if that's the right, is that the right?
You did.
Is that the right usage?
Let me look it up for you. Look.
Let's see. But my Saints Row fans, man, they go all out. And so they wanted to know if I was going to be a part of this reboot, and I'm not. And they were pissed. They were mad. But so I appreciate, I have gratitude for them for rocking with me, my voice, all those years on those games. But the VO stuff was great. I mean, I remember I was and again, the racism stuff is always funny, because I want to say maybe it was one of the first Saints Row sessions, right? And that character that I was playing was like real street, real hood, real like, over the top, like alpha dude. And I came into the session talking with the director, and we were just talking like this. And then he realized who I was coming into play. And it was funny because he was like this British guy, and he's like, are you're supposed to do a main player? Are you like, he didn't want to say, are you going to be able to be hood enough?
Yeah. Are you
in this voice?
Are you
like,
really black? Are you the black guy that we?
I'm like, dude, it's like, dude, I just came from another session where I was playing a German soldier, like yelling in German. So it's like, you know what I mean? We can do all the things just like everybody else. It's like, come on, man. Like, stop with the bullshit.
So is there a voiceover that you kind of not look for, but wish like, dang, that would be cool to have done?
Yeah, what's on your bucket list?
A friggin' huge franchise movie that I will pay residuals for the rest of my life and my offspring's life. That's you on a bucket list, like something like that. But I mean, I don't know, man. Like like I said, these last two VO gigs I had, like the Cannon Busters and this other movie called MFKZ, which is on Netflix right now. It's like a French-Japanese anime, and I play the lead character in it. And that was also a lot of fun, to play. Again, some of my favorite acting work, because it's like range, and
you really get to go wild with these characters, because one, nobody's seeing you, I'm guessing. Right. So it's like you get to just like really get in your zone inside these booths, and I'm sure that's like an amazing experience. Absolutely. And they're cartoons, so the stuff that's happening in the story is out. So it's like, these situations, they're doing a car chase and you're in an ice cream truck and you jump off the freeway and you jump across an overbank and you're in the air. Like, you don't get to do this stuff, unless it's not even possible. It's like, you don't get to do that unless you're like acting in a Marvel
movie, right? Where it's like, okay, they're doing that live action, not even animation style. So
and
I just like the difference. I like the variety, man.
And how do those type of projects compare to As Told by Gender? Because I'll say our audience members. I think when I first put up the picture of the two of us, they were like, "Oh, that's the guy from As Told by Ginger." I'm like, "What?
What? Yeah.
I just know Parenthood." Like,
right.
But I'm sure you were on that show for quite a while. It's
Yeah.
a Nickelodeon quote unquote classic. But so what was it like being on that show, and what type of different fans do you get from that side of the world? Because I'm sure it must be different from some of the other projects.
Saints Row, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Just as excitable, right? The Ginger fans as the Saints Row fans. I mean, I want to say, like, I would say that my most excitable fans are of my VO stuff, interestingly enough. But Ginger was an amazing experience because, again, as an actor, the way that show was done was, it felt like, some cartoons are so like, okay, so you have your script and there's the line numbers, and sometimes they'd be on some rigid shit where it's just like, okay, you just line by line, we're just gonna do 3 of each, and you just go down the thing, down the thing, down the thing. You can't really get a vibe. You have to sort of rely on like having your own internal vibe, stopping and starting and stopping and starting. Right. But Ginger was just like, we had the script, all the actors were in a room together, and we just did the scene a couple of times, and that was it. And so there was this naturalness that was there because of the ability to really have that natural rhythm. And the talent on that show was incredible, right? I mean, being able to work with Cree Summer, you know what I mean? Like, Lorraine Newman was in the show, Melissa Disney, like just an amazing cast. And we just had a great time. Similar, where I want to say they, like when I started seeing the animation come back, and I'm like, oh snap, they're kind of drawing him a little bit like me in the booth. Like he kind of looked a little bit like me. The hair and all that kind of stuff. It was a great show. It was a great show. And so, so those fans, I recently I guess it was like last year was it like the 20-year anniversary of that show? And so this one fan who does like a podcast and a YouTube channel just about that show, like she's like, her and her team are like, they be on that show. And she contacted all of us, right? And I was a part of like this reunion. And that's always great, because it's like, it's great to be able to see how like the work that you do in these little black box rooms affect people for years, And so that's always
fun. And you can definitely tell the chemistry on that show. It just seemed like you guys were really all friends. It's like a high school type setting, right? And,
totally.
So I think that was dope to see, for you to be a part of it. And it was like 8 seasons or something long like that, right?
Something like that.
Crazy. I was like, damn.
Yeah. And that was,
do long seasons. So.
They do. And that was, that like, as far as like work, it's like, okay, so like the list of like, as an actor, like hardest to easiest, right? In terms of just like the workload and patience and just, the gruelingness of some of the acting stuff. I would say at the top is like 1 hour TV episodic. That's probably the hardest you're going to work as an actor on television, because they just working you all the time. Right. I would say the easiest is like sitcom work, because the scripts and stuff, it's not, you're not like having to get into these crazy characters unless that's what you're doing, unless that's the character, right? Like Jaleel White and Urkel, but he could just drop into that. And
it's more lighthearted, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. It's not
it's literally fun.
Unless you're a kid and you know about this. The worst thing about being a child actor is having to do school.
Yeah, I was gonna say
on set. Yeah. It's like, so the adults, when they're finished, they go back to their trailers, their dressing rooms. We had to go to school.
Imagine that. Like, I don't even know. I dropped out the game before I even experienced it without school. That probably was what got on my nerves. Is like, man, I could just go to school and just do that then. Like,
because you had to get like 3 hours in every day, and then they would want to bank hours for those
Lord,
8 days.
you
And so it'd be
that-
like everybody went home
that
and I'm
memory,
still
man.
with the tutor, like doing schoolwork. And
You got to bank 5 hours today so you
it's
can
like,
shoot
what?
all day on Saturday. Like,
and it's just one-on-one school with somebody. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't even. But yeah, like, so Ginger, because I had to come back. Like, what were we talking about? Ginger was like another one of those easy gigs because it just was comfortable to do. And the writing was so great that it wasn't like you had to twist your mouth to say things that were awkward and didn't feel right. And it was just like, you just go in and you do the scene a couple of times in there for a few hours, and then that's it. And you come back next week and do another episode. Those were a lot of fun, and grateful for all that.
So we got you on movies, TVs, behind the scene work. You do your music. We got you in video games. We got you in anime. We got you on traditional cartoon and animated work. And then there's a couple more. We're going to do this before we wrap up that we'll talk about. But you also did a little bit of reality on Montel Williams, sir. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, being on Montel Williams show? That's the show that I used to watch with my mom and we used to be chilling. What did you do on Montel Williams? Because it might jog my memory.
I co-composed the theme for that. And I think I was on an episode as well. They had an episode about like, I want to say like the headline was like Genius Kids or whatever.
Right.
And I was on one of those, like being a little kid, like, oh, okay, yeah, because he's directing and music and editing and all this stuff and acting and all this stuff. And he's like 13, 14. But Montel Williams was like,
it's not really reality, but that was reality back then.
I just want to know, because this is a show I love. It's a show Leeboy has never seen. I always act like it's just the worst show ever. What do you remember?
Why you throwing me under the bus, man? Go ahead.
What do you remember, anything, if you can remember, about Freaks and Geeks when you were?
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't really remember a whole lot about that day. But it was one of those things where I had a lot of fun doing it. And the funny thing was that I had never been drunk before when I did that scene. So I was just kind of like, I'm trying to think about like what my process was for just like, okay, so how do I play drunk? And I've never been drunk to that point. Years later, start drinking a little bit. Yeah, a little bit experience with the libations and things. But at that point, no, I had never been drunk or high. And so I just remember kind of like doing the drunk thing and kind of just thinking about like the breathing that you kind of would be doing, you know what I mean? And I remember like the vibe was chill. That period was interesting for me because it was like, I did Freaks and Geeks. There was other movie, Dead Men on Campus.
Oh, wait a minute. I did not know you did that. You did that?
Yeah, I was in Dead Man on Campus.
Man, that's under, man. Come on, man.
Dead Man on Campus. There was what was the one? It was David Duchovny and Orlando Jones. And it was like, they had like all the aliens, Evolution. I also did Evolution around that time. And this other movie called Delivering Milo. And it was like, this time period was like my early 20s, and and like the acting thing was like, it was weird because like I would kind of book some of these things sometimes, but Evolution, it was kind of like I was a glorified extra, but it was like me and John Cho as glorified extras. And John Cho is about to be Cowboy Bebop. Like John Cho, what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming, I don't want to say who's the wrong person. I'm assuming I know who you talk about.
Harold and Kumar.
Okay,
Harold
yeah.
Kumar.
I was gonna say American Pie, but yeah.
Harold and Kumar, yeah, and really great guy. But it was like we had just done this other movie together, and so we got hired to do Evolution, and and the deal was, it was like the agents were like, oh, the director wants to get these group of college students together who can do improv because there's not really anything written in the script, but he just wants to be able to like have them do stuff in the scene. Cool. And I get there, and it was just the weirdest experience because we were just kind of extras. Like we just were in these scenes, and that's like, whatever, like we're still getting paid. Like it's not whatever, like, it's a gig is a gig. But then it would be like, PA would knock on the door. you need it on set right now, right now, right now, right now. We're shooting right now, right now, right? They'd rush me out. And they would stand me behind a crane. You're going to be right here. I'm like, I'm behind the crane. I'm nowhere near the camera. They're like, no. Yeah, I was like, can I just go back to why am I out here? No, because he might turn around. Yeah, but if he turns around, it's going to take 10 minutes. You can bring me back. And so it was just weird because it was just like, they didn't really have anything for us to do. So we were just these glorified extras, but we had a good time, whatever. But yeah, Freaks and Geeks, man, like that was a cool experience that I barely remember. And it's the thing that people still like, oh man, I just saw you. I just rewatched the whole thing and I just saw you in it. And it's great. I see there's like memes that I get, tweeted at where people are taking the GIFs of like those couple of lines and stuff. And it's cool.
And that's what's great about being a part of so many legendary projects. You get so many fans from different walks of life that come up to you and profess their interest in your career and what you've done, and just being a part of some of pop culture's greatest moments. So kudos to that. And then, and in the background, it seems like you're also creating your own lane as far as that, and you're taking a step into technology and mixing it in with some of your own experiences that you've had over the years and cultivating. In fact, you could definitely explain it a lot better than me, but I'm trying to get to Reshi here.
Yeah,
and
man.
I read about it. You've got a website, you've got an Instagram, so make sure you guys go check this out and go check out Kenn Blank in general. But just tell the audience about it, because this is a type of technology that definitely piqued my interest as soon as I seen what you were trying to develop here, or what you have developed here.
Yeah, no, it's, thank you. It's still in progress. So I've been a musician all my life, and I've utilized technology in the creation of music all of my life. And as I've gotten older, my sort of spiritual evolution has taken many different paths. And so some of my own sort of personal experiences with healing and with, metaphysical stuff, I've always been interested in the subtle. I've always been interested in the beyond. We have a very finite sense of senses, right? We experience what we experience, but for most of us, it's a very narrow image of what's available out there in the universe in terms of energy, in terms of thought discipline. And so I've always been curious and always been very much into learning and reading and having experiences that expand me. And some years ago, I started kind of reading about sound healing and frequency work in terms of, okay, we are all made out of vibration, right? Everything is frequency. Our biology, everything is vibrating. And so sound interacts with that vibration, right? People say, oh, you got to be on that high vibration, you got to raise your frequency, all this stuff. A lot of that's mental. A lot of that is emotional. But some of that is also environmental.
And physical, yeah. It is.
And physical, right? And so the way that we are impacted by sound is fascinating to me, because there's a lot of information in sound, right? Songs that change our mood, chords that you hear a chord transition, it means something, right? There's an emotional connection. That's a language all into itself, right? And so as I started kind of like getting a little deeper in this like sound work, where it's like, okay, there are these, you can find these what they call resonant frequencies that can do things, can affect physical spaces. I remember I was on a plane and I was reading this article about this researcher who was doing work in the pyramids by pushing out certain frequencies in the pyramids. Turns out the pyramids were built to react to certain frequencies, to enhance and generate energy, right? And so there's this whole thing about like, if you can really understand frequency, you can do a lot to heal. And so as I'm reading all this stuff and I'm thinking like, okay, like I would love to combine technology with this, because, you know, some people go like, well, you know, technology and spirituality that's two different things. And I disagree. I feel like technology can help to aid, right? People say, oh, technology is cold and sterile. I feel like technology it's like fire, right? It can warm your house, it can cook your food, but it could burn down your house as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's about how you're wielding it and what the intentioning is. So some years ago, I just started going like, okay, I want to do some experimentation with this sound frequency stuff. And this is a great opportunity for me to explore something that I've always wanted to do, which is to build software. And so I embarked on this project to essentially create a system that aids you in doing holistic sound, right? Being able to identify, utilize these resonant healing frequencies, these frequencies that can adjust a space. There's also this thing called binaural beats, which is you take, you know, one pitch or frequency in one ear and then a slightly higher one in the other ear. And based on that in-between frequency, that rate, you can put your brain in different states.
Interesting.
Put you to sleep, wake you up, help you to focus, help you to concentrate. And the stuff, it works. I mean, I've done it on myself. I mean, literally since high school.
I was always a fan of the character Michael and wanted to, you know, take on that persona in my own life. But I'm an even bigger fan of you now, man. Because just because of, you know, this path that you're going down and that you're cultivating for yourself is very inspirational. So I'm gonna definitely follow that, and I'll be in contact with you about.
Man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, man.
I can't wait to pass you on some stuff that I'm working on. But yeah,
dude, and I'm excited about you, man. It's really, you know, and you too, Prime, man. You ain't, you know what I'm saying? You ain't really been talking much. You've been silent, man. But I'm excited about y'all because y'all doing it. Y'all doing it. We were talking about before it started. I was just talking about the consistency of getting a podcast out, 100 of them out. Like that's work, man. That is not something to be taken lightly. Like, so props, because the work is the work, and you guys are creating.
Prime edits it up, and he does a lot of the behind the scenes work. I'm just here.
Man.
I'm just here.
And that is not inconsequential, because I know, like, especially editing an hour and a half long podcast.
It's hard. I ain't gonna lie. That's the hardest part.
An hour and a half of content, man. Like, I get it. Part. So props.
All right, Prime. What you got for Kenn, man? Before we get up out of here.
All right. So I'm sure you're aware with like Comic-Cons how they're formed, right? How, you know, for guests at Comic-Con, they're gonna have a few pictures of different shows. Mm-hmm. So I want to know if you had to choose a personal Comic-Con set, right? You're at Comic-Con signing stuff. What pictures are you gonna bring? Like, you're gonna bring a show from the Parenthood, picture from the Parenthood to get signed. You know, one of your characters. What are you bringing?
It's gonna be
5 pictures are you bringing?
Oh, that's good. No, 5. That's perfect. Thank you. Definitely Parenthood. Definitely Boomerang. I would say Cannon Busters, because I really love Philly the Kid. Asshole by Ginger, Darren. And what would be the other one? You know what? I mean, I might do Freaks and Geeks, because that just might, you know, because people, you know, that there's an audience for that.
There's fans out there that love
Yes.
Yes, I ain't one of them. Prime's always mad at me. I'm like,
you just never seen the show. That's why.
Did you try and watch it, man? Did you try?
I'm gonna check it out. Oh, man, where can I watch it now?
It's on Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Check it out. I mean, you know, it's one of those shows. It's like, I mean, I don't know if you're a fan of any of the people who were on that show, like Seth Rogen, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's this. Yeah, like this is where they all kind of. This is like early Judd Apatow, and that's the thing. Like, I remember what I do remember is I do remember them talking about Judd Apatow as like, oh, he's this like up and coming, like he's gonna be this next guy, you know. And of course, you know, the rest is history.
That's where you got to start. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out right now. I'm just like stuck on watching like a bunch of kids stuff, and like, you know,
how old are your little ones?
Yeah, 5 and 3. So yeah, we just watching. Like,
Yeah, it's
the
definitely
Bad
not.
Batch right now, and
You got that
Spider-Man.
sound in the background of all the crazy voices.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a bunch of little kid stuff. But I'll definitely check it out. I'm gonna check it out now that I know you on there. We'll do.
I think you might like it. I'm only in a little bit of a thing, but the show is really good. The show is really good. Yeah.
All right. Just before we leave, can you let everybody know where to find you?
I am Kenn Michael everywhere. KENN MICHAEL. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I don't know, the social stuff. I like connecting with people, but I don't know. Social media is just, it's a little weird sometimes, right? Especially now, right? Especially now. I used to love Instagram. I used to love it when it was just about, nice pictures. Upload some nice pictures, and then and now it's definitely not that. Twitter is like my news source, weirdly enough, just to kind of see where people's heads are at. And I don't know if that's kind of the best example, but we're living in crazy times, and I like to be informed about what craziness is happening. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My website is also kennmichael.com. And you can find all the information about Reshi and all that stuff through my pages. So go check that stuff out.
Dope. And if you want a little break or a new avenue for social media, I would just suggest Fanbase. It's a Black owned.
Yeah, I saw Jason Weaver, and I heard about that. So I will definitely check that out because Black owned, absolutely support that.
Black owned, not what I like about it, the technology. They actually incorporate some things from Clubhouse, a lot of things from Instagram, and you can do it all in one place. And they also offer subscriptions and different ways to monetize your content. So definitely a dope platform that I would recommend to anyone that's getting over Instagram like the rest of us. But Instagram, don't block me, don't shadow.
Right, but that's the thing. It's like, we still need it, right? Because it's how people kind of connect. But I'll definitely check out. It was called
Fanbase. And you can follow me on there at Leeboy TV, pretty much everywhere else, including YouTube. Please, you guys give me a follow and check me out on LeeboyTV.com. Prime, what's up with you, man? What you got for the people?
You're not going? Did you?
What? Wait, what did I forget? Look, I'm like looking at Prime.
What time?
Huh? What?
The day, the time that y'all on Fanbase?
Oh no, I mean, I was just saying, follow me at Leeboy on Fanbase, but I do have a Child Star chat every Thursday that we just brought over from Clubhouse over to the Fanbase platform. It's me, Angelique, Latangela, Giovanni Samuels, a bunch of people that I know, a bunch of Child Stars that are friends. Jermaine Williams is usually on there. You guys check us out. We're having a good time on Fanbase. We're just getting started out, so come show us some support and love, and have a good time with us, man. Thank you, Prime. Like, he was like looking at me like, you ain't gonna say it? I'm like,
do the plug, man.
I'm like, what did I do? I got something? What's up with you, Prime? Tell the people where to find you.
Follow me, Twitter, Instagram, KVNG Prime Time. Follow the podcast, Prime Nostalgia Pod. We're gonna get more active on Twitter, but Twitter is just weird sometimes.
Twitter is weird. Twitter is weird. There are all these joints are weird now. Like, they started in an interesting place, and now it's just like,
it's Troll City now.
Look, man.
Don't have an opinion now. Don't even go down that road.
Dude, I got rid of my Instagram. No, not Instagram, Facebook. I got rid of my Facebook a couple of years ago. I was just like, no, not even inactive, just like delete. Just I know they still tracking me all over the web, but I'm just like, oh goodness.
And as we always say, Prime
time
is all the time, baby. We out of here. That was Prime Nostalgia Podcast. Y'all be good. Prime Nostalgia. Thanks for tuning in to the Prime Nostalgia, the podcast dedicated to entertainment from childhood that's 80s, 90s, the latest 2000s, because Prime know it all, and Leeboy be wild, and he's from all that, dropping gems for you to find, so that's orange, the lightest line, prime time is all the time. We talking about the classics, and there's so many, that's Leeboy TV and PRIME. Ow.